Hello and welcome to the Middlemen. I'm Juro Emeka Madnab, and on the show with me today is Cyril Abako. We will be discussing the Big Bang wedding between Davido and Chioma. Juro Jumoke Alawade James, who believes Kenya is the authentic giant of Africa, and the Juro from Rabbi, Emma Tufeli, who will be discussing the plight of this great country, Nigeria. I'll be starting on a very soft spot. The country is hard enough. All of these conversations will be happening right after this short break. Please stay with us.
Middleman.
Welcome back to the Middleman. My case. Bring back our laughter. Things are so hard across Nigeria now. Every Nigerian, except for our TV politicians, has become a food scientist of sorts. I've been a dietitian myself. Is it cucumber stew, egusi stew, onion stew, ewedu stew? Oh my God. Every day, one wahala or the other. Nigerians have become so toxic and aggressive that they tear each other down online. Even Davido's wedding to my Pinchomic's sister, Chef Chi, has become a shooting range as well. Kilo day. In those days of Mama Peace and Uncle Oga Hebo, we had so much to laugh about amid our challenges. Today, only skit producers make an effort to ease the tension. Even the Holy Bible says in Proverbs 17:22, NIV, that a cheerful heart is good medicine, but a crushed spirit dries up the bones. My verdict, this is an advocacy for public health. In the light of the report that an enterprising youth, Nick Imudia, committed suicide recently, whatever could have led to it is on one side, but it's important for us to find ways to deal with our existential issues without letting them sink us. Things are tough, no doubt, but we will see the back of these horrible times. Amen.
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 Believers on the table. Amen.
That ewedu stew that got me goosebumps just now. Ewedu stew with the drum. You understand? So we have assumed the latest survival strategies to mix things up. Whether it is vegetable, we're mixing it with some grass, or it is oil, we're mixing it with some. People have gone into dangerous improvisation.
Yeah.
And those dangerous improvisation, they are born out of strategy to survive. And then people are trying their hands on new things. The juice that will come out from cucumber, which is relatively cheap, will be much more big and maybe wider than the one that will come out from the tomatoes. Okay, so that way you are able to cut costs and you have quantity. So now we're eating quantity. It doesn't matter whether it's nutritious or not. Nutrition is now a luxury, just an afterthought. Now back to the issue of
bringing back our laughter.
Our laughter. One of the things we miss is the old good days.
Now only you are kako.
All those and they were veritable materials for skit makers. Except that this man from Rivers, Asari Dokubo, who stepped into the gap after
Mama Peace
and the others, Obagmo, left it off. I started providing the 70-year-old man.
70-year-old man.
How many times will they tell you that this country is not for you? A wristwatch and a cup of tea. You understand? So we are progressing. We are doing well, except that, like we say this all the time, we have no leadership. That is the painful thing about the Nigerian state. Otherwise, look at the Davido's wedding. We have succeeded. Individuals have succeeded in this country. Young people with liquid cash, with how they made it a different thing entirely. Not everyone is a criminal, okay? But people have succeeded largely. But as a country, we have refused to succeed. And we cannot succeed as a country with the kind of leadership we have. But the unfortunate part of that, the leadership we even have, they have not even started the journey to create prosperity for this country.
Yeah.
So that is the worrisome part about this whole thing.
And I think it goes to explain how a wedding of this sort took place. And then the next thing on social media it left a firestone.
That is your case.
That's like jumping into my case already.
Yeah,
But
you're
you
jumping
see-
into your case.
Yeah, I know, but you see, it's funny when a society is collectively depressed. No attempt to sugarcoat it. Even when good things happen, people say they see what could be bad in it.
Yeah.
So we know, because like they say, we see ourselves, we see other things
The way we see ourselves.
the way we see ourselves.
That is why it's not good to be in deprivation for too long.
Yes, exactly. It has a way of distorting.
Yes, if you're in
your
deprivation,
perception of-
you
yeah.
know, the Israelites were in deprivation for too long.
Yes.
Such that they started even
For
complaining.
400 years.
Yes, they started complaining that there was a time they ate cucumber, this same cucumber, and garlic and all those things.
And
Yeah,
this and so on.
and now you have brought us into this place to that long deprivation. It has a psychological effect.
But I mean, going back to the point you made earlier, you see, societies like the old Roman Empire had a reason for creating the amphitheaters.
Yes.
It was because when you think of Rome, you think first of all about the conquest of the Roman army,
Yes.
the empire builders, the
Yes.
Caesars, and so on.
Yes.
But Rome was also very smart to organize those group fights and gladiator warfares. It was to ease social tension.
to subsume
Yes, in every palace, if you went, you would find
theater.
till today, yes, you would find there's a name they call him, not comedian.
Is it just
Clowns,
Yes, court jesters.
and jesters. Yes.
Court jesters. They had the purposes. So because the king receives a lot of intelligence every day that are enough to kill him, they just were there to lighten his mood and make him. So
Yes.
that balance, that's true balance. Do you know government should and could deliberately infuse certain voices in society who gauge the mood, and when it's about to go bad, they throw one jibe like this that just dissolves the mood and makes it. But sadly, when you lack leadership in any society, things happen at the mercy of chance. That way, how can you now measure and be sure where you're going?
But we thought we lacked leadership in the days of Jonathan when his wife was asking us questions. Now only you Wakako. And you know, she was funny in a very unhumorous way because it was a serious issue and we were making light of it.
Jumoke?
And at the time, they said that Nigerians were the happiest in the world.
Yes.
And we're saying happiest in the midst of all of this poverty. But we rebased our economy at the
And
time
found out, yes.
and realized that we're the biggest
biggest economy in Africa?
in Africa. And a huge chunk of that was the entertainment industry,
Yes,
Nollywood,
yes.
music that hadn't been captured
We are
in
still
our
the big- We are still
GDP.
the biggest.
But we are no longer laughing. We are now making
Unashamedly, right? It is now very likely that 20 years of the PDP, of the APC, won't be better than the PDP years.
No, but whenever said we're the biggest in size, but because in 2024,
Not
the
in
big-
impact.
the
Not in
biggest
impact.
economy in Africa right now is South Africa.
So,
Nigeria is number 4.
Nigeria is number 4
Aha.
from the statistics we will see over there. But Nigeria is number 4 for a reason. Nigeria is number 4 because her informal sector is not captured. If you look at deposits, in the banks have done this analysis. When you weigh it with what is outside,
They say, yes, the system.
yes,
Again,
you notice that we have a bigger GDP than what we're
what's the
talking about.
population of South Africa? Because
Yeah, so-
Relative
to
resources.
yes, now we must all of those things add up.
But the other thing that we don't capture here is that look at somebody like Davido. Do you know there are some countries that have people like just about 1 or 2 like Davido, and they bring so much revenue. The work they do brings so much revenue to their country. Just imagine if Cristiano Ronaldo had attended Davido's wedding. There would have been a breakdown of law and order in Lagos.
True. In
So
fact,
if Davido wouldn't been able to get to the even if he flew by helicopter, he would have just gone back. Because at the airport,
I thought that there was a breakdown of law.
I was afraid of when I even saw
No, there was.
and they were flashing
The place was.
I thought there was a breakdown of law.
when they were flashing the personalities expected. I was worried. I said Chris Brown, Ronaldo, and Burna Boy.
How would they get into the venue?
No,
But
those ones have
How would they leave the airport?
escorts. They have. There was protocol. It was actually well organized that those who were supposed to be in got in despite the crowd.
No, but you know what I'm saying is that.
But I saw outside
I'm looking at
people with invites.
I'm looking at the power of soft power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, imagine Cristiano Ronaldo. He wouldn't leave the airport, even if the entire Nigerian army can.
No, he wouldn't have done well.
People will want to touch him. No, what I'm saying, I'm looking at the magical effect.
Yeah.
You know, relative to how we
Of
can
a
make
man
something better.
in entertainment,
Yes.
not in government.
Yeah.
Bringing such people. A well-thinking government would have looked for how to make his own money from this.
From this year.
Anyway, Davido and Chioma have now jackpot. The rest of us are back to cooking stew with cucumbers.
Davido was never even. He's just a resident here now. He was born in the US.
He's an American.
Though, the day they brought Davido to Nigeria, the parent had to obtain a Nigerian passport. If anybody born abroad, before they bring you here, they will have to. So he's a resident here. He's originally an American.
Yes, but again, so the advocacy is not lost on us. I mean, I'm touched because we need to be laughing some more in this country. There's a lot to depress a lot of people in this country. But maybe somebody will hear this prayer and hope that they get us laughing again. The real laughter will be to make this country prosperous again.
Yeah.
People, any pocket that has money, the mind knows how to know that there's money in the pocket.
But like you will find in my own case, Lagosians, I realize that is not of all of Nigeria. Lagosians, every weekend we still find a way to go to Owambe in the midst of all of this.
Yeah.
And also,
people still laugh.
suicide is not the answer, though, regardless of what you're going through.
Yeah.
All of us are going through it together.
Yeah.
In fact, I realized that there's more poverty in Abuja than there is in Lagos. Lagos, you can hustle, and your brother will give you 200 naira, or you go and sell something on the street.
Nothing
like that in Abuja. They are either extremely rich or extremely poor.
And the class distinction is there.
Very high.
In Lekki, you see some places.
Even the spatial distribution of human beings. You could wake up and say that the next person you're talking to will be very far from you. Unlike Lagos, where man,
you must meet
Even in VI, there's still a community of the less privileged.
Yes.
Even in
there's no region without them, because for instance they used to say that
Abuja is structured.
their own is far. you will drive long distance.
Is it where
They talk about Lagos that when the rich were living in Apapa, their mates were in Ajegule. VI had Morocco. There's no area without, there's a squatter empty parcel of land within my estate now that is worrying us because it's like a security threat. What's the cause of it? Is that yes, when they carry your pot of stew, monkeys they gather to carry your pot of stew. But what's the cause of it? Empty parcel of land. The guards, maids who would go a long distance to get rent to come to their Oga's house started buying the place 30,000 per month. I think they will just build makeshift homes within the shanties. God bless you. That's it. And now it's causing a security threat to us.
Yes.
So pretty much every region has the rich and poor. It's when the gap is wide, like it is now in Abuja, that there's a problem.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful. We hope that gap between the rich and the poor will reduce, and then laughter will come back again. When we return, Sirabako will talk about the wedding of the year, Chivido 2024. Don't go anywhere.
Middleman.
You're welcome back to the Middleman of Jurors. My case, hashtag Chivido 2024. On November 10, 1962, two Nigerians, a man and a woman, or shall I say a lady. The man's name was Emmanuel Chukwuemeka Anyonko, and the lady's name, Princess Ebunla Olubumi Sholanke, got wed at the Anglican Church in Lagos. That year, the Nigerian Sunday Times, unable to ignore the felicity of the spectacle, wrote that it was, quote, a wedding of one of Nigeria's most eligible bachelors and a beautiful young princess educated in an English boarding school and Pitman College, London. End quote. Today, on June 26, 2024, a celebrated Nigerian chef, Chioma Rowland, and her celebrity singer fiancé, David Adeleke, popularly known as Davido, had a wedding displaying affluence and luxury that was rather difficult to ignore. If you hadn't seen the wedding before reading comments on social media, you'll be forgiven to think that Armageddon, rather than a lifetime of bliss, just began between the duo in Lagos. Here's my verdict. I maintain that the road to national orderliness is easy to pave with purposeful leadership. We were there in the 1960s before switching tracks to go the way of prodigal sons and daughters, competing for everything from nothing to racial superiority. When public conversations lack sound sense and perspective, it is suggestive of deeper rot. It is not too much to ask for a government to strive regularly to set the agenda for sane and sanitized societal conversations. I so rule.
What I noticed from the Chivido 2024 extravaganza was the gap between the extremely rich and the extremely poor. Because on the road, aside from everyone on the streets loving Davido, we love him, he's our superstar, right? There were people just hanging on the streets on a Tuesday morning, jobless, hailing. And I saw, if I was there, I would have been afraid for my life in terms of security. Of course, it didn't seem like anyone was there to harm anyone. It was pretty much joyful mood for the wedding itself. But the amount of people on the streets, I'm like, wow. In the midst of all of this poverty, Lagos is not as poor as major rural areas and cities in Nigeria. So sometimes we forget that we are the poverty capital of the world. In the midst of all of this is a party spending millions, if not billions, because forget the amount used to organize the party itself, the amount spent in terms of gifts and spraying of dollars. I'm like, may Nigeria not happen to me. It's true. I'd rather be on the other end of the divide where you have too much than be amongst those people on the streets who are they've not eaten today. They are looking at your hands for handouts.
Yeah. So, but let me bringing the conversation home. On social media, people started saying Davido chose to marry Chioma because he knows that the genes of her tribe are better than the genes of his own tribe.
What kind of nonsense?
We started saying all kind.
No, let me see.
Why are we even looking at those kind of comments?
Nigerians have a way of taking things to the extreme. You see, it's a man's prerogative to choose whom to marry.
Absolutely.
Besides that, there's no tribe that have superior gene
Exactly.
anywhere in the world. Ideas rule the world. Okay, so superiority or ingenuity cannot be tribe sensitive. I disagree, because the creator, he distributed gifts to all men, you understand, by his prerogative. But that occasion, I took something away from that occasion. What I took from the occasion was that the predisposition of the rich and the poor. You see, that event happened and reminded us once again that the rich people, they are one big happy family.
Very true.
They are very courteous when they met each other or one another in the event. They exchanged pleasantry. They were humble. They were simple. Their networking was elegant. You understand? Now,
It is the poor people that are fighting
they left.
on social media.
The moment they left, the elite left. Then the poor started dragging the poor.
They will.
A very dark man started dragging
Yabojo.
Yabojo with the daughter, saying they are talking about who sat where and how, who
Ew.
get level past who didn't make it into the place but was sat at the tent and the rest of that. And it reminds me of Proverbs 10:14. The rich man's wealth is a strong city. The destruction of the poor is their poverty. It's an exhibition of what the poor will do when they cannot muster the intellectual energy to actually engage with the rich. That place is supposed to be some sort of, apart from weddings, it's supposed to be some sort of mecca of networking
I
for some
agree.
people,
I agree.
other than just
People you will never get a chance to
yes
meet.
to meet. You met them, and the next, and to think that you
But
have
again-
a friend,
But again, why are we discussing very dark man? What does he do? Who is he?
No,
What
I'm
is
not-
it?
I'm not
What's his
discussing
nuisance
him.
value?
I'm not discussing him. I couldn't have been discussing him. It's a reference. I made a reference. Okay, so people are supposed to guard themselves, make good use, economic value of events like this.
Yes.
But what did we get? Now it spills over now to abusing people from one place to the other.
And
I don't know why you people so abuse. Oh.
If-
Me, I couldn't sleep. All I was seeing was happy. In fact, we the Davido fans were just too
You
happy.
know the interesting thing. I want to.
I didn't see this.
Something you mentioned about, a lot of Nigerians being on the street. If you remember the wedding of Prince Charles and Diana and everything, it was all over the world. In fact, the whole world
Was glued to their TVs.
was the entire world was glued. You know that's the thing about the rich. They have a way of catching your
Captivating,
attention
yes.
and captivating your attention. Because you know what? Even if it was in a Western nation, I can bet
That there will be people on the
some
street
people will even take leave. Some people will even be willing to forfeit money
Yes.
for that day.
just for them to say,
I saw it happen.
I saw the video. I touched the video. I touched chairman.
Yeah.
That these are the things these Western societies, and the thing is that their governments take advantage of things like this. They also make money from this.
They make tax of it and everything.
They just find a way around it, and they encourage conversations. I thought, for instance, maybe TV stations and would have just been talking about it. Bringing
Well, I passed by a TV station on that Tuesday one and saw that the TV station was empty, and I just laughed. Everybody have gone to the
It's only entertainment shows that discussed it.
Yeah.
You couldn't have abandoned the fact that the president, our buildings in UK have been taken over by the Chinese, and they bring the video discussion on the breakfast show. So people will, you can actually put it in the entertainment section.
Yeah, that's how that. You can't ignore anything by the India's richest man, the steel tycoon. When his daughter got wedded, he brought Kylie Minogue. He spent, I think, was it $9 million just to bring Kylie Minogue. There are nations. Every nation has
A way of
its own kind of elite.
yes.
And it's not just every member of the elite. There are certain members of the elite who can shut down
The crème
a
de la
city.
crème.
Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is that for our leaders, we should learn how to make economic sense instead of encouraging the people to tear themselves, because some of these things will be orchestrated by people working with our leaders. Especially in the presidency. I don't want to mention names.
Yeah, I don't
Some
know
of these
about
people,
that.
yeah, they are there. You can see by their fruits, you shall know them.
I don't know
Some
about
of
that.
them, some at least one operative of the Tinubu administration today, right during the elections, was right there dishing out hateful propaganda on social media. It is not necessary. What you need to do is let your soft power find elements of your soft power that can bring you money. Do you know, for instance, IMF there's what they call Country 4 reports, which they issue every beginning of the year by the previous year. There was one Country 4 report, I think it was 2014 or so, where they said that some Nigerian banks, that their capital base is more than the GDP of a number of African nations.
Of course.
Yeah.
So
Now.
that means, just like Barrister was saying, if these people could realize the power of Nigeria, do you know Nigeria will be like an imperial power? And even there's an article I've been advertising by writing so that people don't misunderstand. How about the Nigerian neo-colonial agenda? Pushing Nigeria across
Africa.
not just Africa, different places of influence. We
Yes,
have influence in
Black
Brazil,
Rock, yes.
we have influence in the US.
I agree.
Where places where you have large,
Concentration of Nigerians.
sell Nigeria so much in that place that there is nothing else you can find there, whether food, whether clothes, whether whatever.
Anyway,
That is anything but Nigerian flavor.
the soft side of this case is that online every day the politicians will tell us that we are different. And I was saying it behind the scenes today that at Enterprise TV we don't see one another's strides. We're one united Nigerians. We grew up in Lagos, we stay here, and we're just family. But every election cycle, they now say that, oh, Cyril is from Rivers and Jumoke is from Osun that I haven't been to in 20 years, if you get what I mean. So every day online, wow, the Igbos and the Yorubas are fighting, but offline we're marrying.
Every Thursday. In
the theater of war.
Yeah, so my last drop on this is just to think that many years ago there was sanity in the conversation. A newspaper could even say this is one of our most eligible bachelors in the country.
Many years ago there wasn't social media.
But today it's
many years ago there wasn't social media. Today everyone is a publisher.
Yeah, but I think
on their social media handle.
Yeah, so I think that speaks more to the mind than to the medium.
Yeah.
The sort of mind we have to use.
Definitely.
Something has to sanitize the mind.
Oh, no,
so that
yeah,
our presence, like Emeka always says, our presence on social media can be mind into something more productive than
There's
our
one thing you're going to do. You will always have the negative with the positive. That's the balance of life.
Hello.
It's the balance of life.
Our presence in social media is very vindictive. Very, very vindictive. The way people come with hatred.
They say the heart of man is desperately wicked. No, we like to talk about it.
Nigeria
we are the most populous black. Hold on. We are the most populous black. So we are number one in many things. If it is open defecation, we are number one in the world.
The hatred is too much.
No, the heart of man is wicked now.
It's like we just came to
How do you measure hatred? Which word use in measure hatred?
Toxicity.
Toxicity.
It's not strong enough to measure it.
You cannot even measure it.
The toxicity can be softened.
Yes.
Yeah.
No matter how bad water is, there is a way
You can't just find the right adjective to describe the level of hatred on social media. What for?
Because you know that you are invisible when you sit behind your phone. Nobody sees you. But when you're talking to me one-on-one, you won't come with that amount of venom, So it's natural. We're populous. We have the huge numbers.
Well,
there must be toxicity.
And we're looking for where to express ourselves because our government has chosen to look the other way. When we return, the junior from Rabbi will be examining the state of the Nigerian nation today. Stay with us.
Middleman.
Welcome back to the middleman. My case. An evil man shall burn his own nation to the ground and rule over the ashes. Ashes in the palace. Jonathan Tepperman's book, The Fix, is about how some nations fix significant social challenges like inequality, corruption, and civil war using innovative leadership and policies. No one has yet written a book about how nations fix profligacy. Therefore, it is justifiable that Nigerian leaders have not bothered to read a book that does not exist. When such a book is eventually written, Nigerians' chronicle of shameless profligacy will qualify as a unique case study. It is perceived as a culture our elites have come to embrace or tolerate as an acceptable national social habit. Profligacy, defined as reckless or wasteful extravagance, is a concern and various aspect of Nigerian society. It touches different levels, from personal lifestyle choice to government spending and business practices. This culture of profligacy, if left unchecked, will continue to drain our resources, hinder our development, and perpetuate a cycle of corruption and mismanagement. Social habits are ingrained behavioral patterns that shape society and influence how things are done. It might have a good or bad impact. Andrew Skies, co-author of The 11 Habits, believes that the collective culture of a people shapes their habits, and habits clinically reinforce culture. The habit of a nation reflects its values. The habit of profligacy among Nigerian ruling cadre is interconnected with the culture of corruption, lack of accountability in public life, short-term thinking, the lack of personal stake in the Nigerian project. Most importantly, it is proof of a total disconnect from reality. Since the Nigerian Civil War, a deeply ingrained culture of wasteful expenditure and consumption-driven government has plagued successive Nigerian governments. However, this is not a fate we are bound to. With the right cultural shift and systemic reform, we can break free from this circle and build a more responsible and prosperous Nigeria. There is substantial empirical evidence linking the culture of wastefulness to our oil economy, which provides government with oil revenue at all levels without accountability. Oil receipts have increased spending, often on non-essential projects that do not benefit the citizens. With an abundance of oil money and less emphasis on accountability and transparency, an environment of profligacy became prevalent and is now a national social habit. This profligacy, in turn, fuels corruption and mismanagement, creating a vicious circle that hampers our progress and development. My verdict: it is crucial that we recognize and address the interconnectedness to pave the way for a more responsible and accountable Nigeria. There is no responsible public affairs management culture which feeds the decadent habit of wastefulness that our elite has adopted. Our weak institutions encourage mismanagement since they cannot enforce laws and regulation. A political patronage and nepotistic culture has made us prone to wrong priorities, and we need the ability to plan strategically. Oversight by the legislature is highly overcompromised. Like the Kenyans have gone to the streets, let Nigerians step out and rewrite their story. I shall go to Rabbi again.
Very interesting. Yes, that is what I hope will happen at some point, whether we like it or not. Because the people cannot continue to endure such avoidable hardship. Sincerely, because I've had to sit down some people to actually, on my secondary school's WhatsApp forum, there's somebody, he lives in Ireland, a medical doctor, and then with some other people, they say, that reforms bring hardship. I kept ignoring them until one day I said, today, this nonsense must stop. And then I took on them very seriously. I said, please, explain for me what you mean by this hardship of the thing. Because I went with one of them to one of the prestigious, with two, my classmates, to one of the prestigious clubs in Lagos. And I didn't see anything about the people have to endure hardship, blah, blah, blah. I've been around places, where politicians engage in conspicuous waste.
Rabble rousing.
If only you could cut, just like the ancient road, I just feel like you can cut some of this and distribute. Because the essence of the social contract government with the people to redistribute resources.
Well, yes.
It's not as if you are going to invent the wheel or anything.
Why are the people who are suffering docile though?
You see, forget about those who come and those chorus singers, they are really suffering.
Why are they docile? If
The
they're really
chorus singers are
suffering,
suffering.
Why?
The chorus singers are suffering too.
They are not suffering.
Yes.
In fact, they are suffering more. Because you know what? I didn't support Tinubu, for instance. So I knew, hey, I will never go to any Tinubu office, any office related to this government. You go and look for the contract.
Where
Some people were saying, we didn't see your name in any of the appointments. I said, please, so I beg.
So
I want to be able to sleep peacefully at night, so that people don't turn my
Are you
house
saying if you
into
are given
a
an appointment today, you will not take it?
I will gratefully
reject it.
reject it. Why? Because you know what?
You are in a cult.
We are not living the reality.
But if that is a way for you to go and to change things,
Excuse me.
then you are-
Excuse me. He wants to change our life.
I have two examples.
Can the principal here?
I don't want to mention their name, but I used to look up to them because when they speak eloquently, one of them is an economist. When they spoke eloquently those days, two of them ran for president. When they spoke eloquently those days, but immediately
You joined. That is it.
I've not even seen one tweet.
When you are eating, don't talk.
Nigerians, how are you?
When you are
Even if
eating,
it's a tweet to say Nigerians.
when you are eating, don't talk.
So that is
They are busy eating. They are what's the word? Observing table manners.
Professor Richard Joseph, political science, UI, back in the day. He wrote several books about Nigerian politics. One of the terms that came out back then was prebendalism. He defines I think it's even unique to Nigeria, prebendal politics. And you can tie it into waste very neatly. You have a government in which when Dele Bola Ige went to Abuja to go and become minister in 2000 or 2001, there was a convoy of 34 cars that came to pick him at the airport.
that's the same Bola Ige.
Yes. What for? That's one. Number two.
Not too long ago, this same president that used to be what do you call it now?
Former state governor.
President Tinubu now.
Former state governor.
Used to be not former state governor. He used to be an activist, so serious activist. He
And,
came into Lagos that day. Came into
he has
Lagos.
got to make a
I counted
difference, yes.
72 SUVs.
Yeah, good. As president.
72.
And these are people that were calling for Jonathan's neck. To them that they're in office. Everything. So but let's face it, right? You have 10 aircraft in the presidential fleet. Nigeria has spent cumulatively 86 billion naira
On maintaining aircraft.
between 2016 and now.
In 100 days in Buhari's government, we spent how many billions for the aircraft to be packed? One of them to be
Now.
packed in the UK.
Yes. Now we spent 15 billion. Come on, we are not a serious country. 15 billion naira not to build a house.
To renovate.
To renovate the
Not
house
to
of the
build
vice
one
president.
hospital.
Will it take it to
Not to build a school.
will it take him to heaven?
Why are you renovating the house of the vice
I
president?
don't understand. You have the Mambila Power
To
Project.
respect the vice
I'm coming.
president.
You have Mambila Power Project. You have all kinds of things that
At whose expense?
At our
there are
expense.
many things.
That's what the presidency said.
Jumoke, there are many things you can fix in this country without awarding a single contract. They wouldn't do it, right? I think somewhere in Ireland,
PPP.
they've copied that same pattern that took place in Dubai. No taxes. If you want to do anything, so much so that somebody went to Microsoft to go and bring something to Nigeria. They told him you have to first of all write it through our office in Dublin. Otherwise, that thing can come to Nigeria. Now, so this is strategic objective of the country. You are not even talking about going to Asia, get companies that can come to give us anything to do and give them tax holiday so that they can start fixing the country. Nobody talks about that. You have last year, towards the end of the year, 2.2 trillion naira was in November, was a supplementary budget.
Yes.
2.2 trillion.
Yes.
Where did it go?
Then
600 million of
this
it was
year,
to buy cars.
this year,
those 72 jeep you saw the president with, it's part of it now.
this year, 90 billion to do what? 90 billion for Hajj.
And sorry, the Hajj, already state governments are calling for a probe of that money.
Good.
They are already saying that their people didn't get that money.
Now, so it just tells
people
you.
are already crying.
So
They
and
didn't get the money.
now that's one. The senators who got cars of 160 million naira each senator, and cabinet members and governors, how many cars are in their convoy?
Already.
And so they are burning fuel, just burning fuel. What are they convoy? In the end, you be supposed that per quarter or per year, we've spent money running into trillions.
Let me remind
For
you,
what
900
if will not produce anything for Nigerians whatsoever.
No.
968 million was spent by 30 governors on entertainment,
Then-
traveling and entertainment.
Then
alone.
you go. Then
In 2024,
those are monies.
Those are fine, not yet gone.
yes,
gone.
first quarter,
How much did you say it again?
968 million.
That's almost going to
30 governors.
That's
almost 1 trillion.
And those are monies you can't account for.
Yes,
And I think what is that?
traveling.
What's traveling?
Can I tell you one funny thing? Sorry to cut you, but to tie into what you said, you will find after those governors leave that money was not paid though. You will
Right?
still be owing a lot of vendors.
Right?
Ask newspaper houses.
They will not pay.
And if we
You
River
will
State,
see,
Yes.
see adverts.
yes,
See, there's an event.
yes,
Maybe governor's birthday or something.
Yes.
So many adverts.
They will leave it for the incoming government.
Yes,
Yes.
when the governor has gone.
yes.
You
So I mean,
they will now be-
yeah.
The newspaper houses will now be writing queries to the representatives. Make our to Guru chiefs. Make sure you recover this money. Make sure you'll not be wondering, but were these adverts not?
What did they need those adverts for?
To say happy
Good
birthday.
question.
Don't we know them?
Good
No,
question.
but the money was released.
Sycophancy.
You
The money
know,
was
They
released.
are advertising themselves to us.
Yes.
So that's not
We know them now.
the money you talked about. The money that's almost
968 million.
but the money, let's even
go on. They didn't pay anybody.
let's even
nothing.
say the money was released. The money was released. Let's even say for
No, entertainment. Now they are traveling with their aides. They are going on holiday to see their family.
They
anything.
also
They
owe
their
hotels.
aides.
You see,
They owe hotels, they owe airlines.
They owe their aides.
the day I got to know that this country is finished
Ah.
was when my client got a contract to paint a building that does not exist
Ewo.
in Abuja. And they were massive four conjoined structures,
Wow.
office complex in Asokoro. There was no address. There was no any building.
Nigeria.
Yes, that was, I was asking my client.
There's
This
nothing.
contract.
It's the land of miracles. I told you earlier.
You know that there are some streets that have never been tarred before. But when you look into government documents, every year they allocate money to tar.
In Buhari's first budget to National Assembly, one secondary school wanted to construct a flyover. Then the minister
Secondary school.
college, you never see something. Then there was the minister of health went to National Senate. He ran away that this is budget. It's not in this country I thought that the budget was missing.
Yes, now.
See, in my opinion, anybody who wants to fight the Nigerian route better be ready to pay a very steep price for it. Otherwise, he should go and look for what it will really cost him to effect meaningful change, because
You must be willing to die to
people
self.
have been reading books. I've been writing books right from the 80s, saying that studying Nigeria seems to be a project going nowhere. Because you study this way, you can't understand what's going
That's what
on.
I'm saying.
Study that way, you can't
All
understand
this
what's going on.
expenditure,
That is going.
and they're still owing.
Not going anywhere.
They're still owing many.
It's not going anywhere.
Emeka, last year, from January to December, I represented an NGO as a communications manager, and our donor organization from the United States said to us, this year 2024, abandon anti-corruption, which is our main focus. They said corruption is a Nigerian culture. just leave it and go and tighten the
Restructure.
Public empowerment.
go and tighten the capacity building that you were doing with agencies. But this anti-corruption that we have been giving you people money for, we are no longer funding it. It is not going anywhere.
Last year, federal government took a loan from World Bank to buy sanitary pads for girls.
Did they buy?
Are you asking?
You not remember that we had a minister.
Women empowerment.
I don't like
You not remember that there was a minister under Buhari that was feeding children while they were at home.
If you want to change Nigeria,
And she sustained the story.
you need.
Yes, now.
With straight face.
No, when they told her to come and defend it, she said that some of the poor people that she gave money to in Abuja are too proud, like that they feel like they'll be ashamed
To come out.
and own up that they took money. And I said that this country, the discussion, the more you talk, the less. What do you need the rod of Moses and the father of Elijah, to enter into government and say, as from today, this is it. When anybody that comes that is opposed to it,
I told my wife that I'm not going to come over to Dublin because we want to change this country. When they were going. So, the last time my wife asked me that,
How far? How far?
I took offense immediately. That no, don't tell me that. We are
still at it.
We are the
vanguard here.
we are the verge of taking over this and make things better.
Vanguard for a new Nigeria.
Well, I hope you see waiting.
But when I came back home and I did an audit, like when I was writing that voice, I did an audit of the country. I just discovered that
Things are getting worse.
it does not look like we're going anywhere. I'm telling you.
That's Nigeria for
This
you.
country disappointed me.
There's a future, but maybe it's not now. I just don't.
It's not, maybe it's not now. All right. When we return, Juro Jumoke will be going to Kenya to examine the issues there. Stay back.
Middleman.
You're welcome back to The Middleman. We are your jurors. My case. Kenya, the real giant of Africa. Davido 2024 distracted us for a minute. The lovers of Davido and his entire family and online in-laws who were too busy scrolling from one blog site to the other, we nearly forgot to support our African brothers, Kenya, for their revolution that has been televised. They're saying no to a Finance Bill 2024 that will raise their taxes and increase the prices of staple like bread. Omo, see protests. Kenyans are not smiling. President William Ruto pretended to be on the side of the people, but when military and police were sent out and bullets started flying with a sniper in tow, Kenya said it is no longer about #reject Finance Bill 2024. It's now about #Ruto must go. Way to go, brothers. We support the Kenyan Gen Zs who have taken after the Nigerian Gen Zs who also protested being harassed and killed by policemen with the EndSARS protest in 2020. Both protests started peaceful, just to show distaste in bad governance and inconvenience in government policy. The difference, however, is that Kenya has a better working system than Nigeria. We cannot compare infrastructure for starters. $1 is 128.4 Kenyan shillings. When Nigeria is shouting poverty, our poverty gets levels. We are the world's poverty capital. Also, though the military and police were sent to kill unarmed protesters in both cases, the Kenyan elites are not lying down taking it, nor denying what we can all see on social media. Lawyers, bishops, and the civil society in Kenya came on the streets to support the youth. Nothing came out of the panels of inquiries in the Nigerian situation. The Lagos panel indicted the government. The government denied any wrongdoing. End of. And no matter the level of poverty in Nigeria, we keep on adjusting. Government told us to go back to farms. We have started cooking stew with cucumber instead of tomatoes. Like the current Nigerian president, the first thing President William Ruto did when he got into office was to remove fuel subsidies. Kenyans had chosen him in free and fair elections and didn't mind so much. But once the government budgeted 600 million Kenyan shillings for fixing the vice president's quarters from an initial 400 million budget, the people realized quickly that only the citizens were tightening their belts. government officials still wanted their largesse. Sounds like Nigeria, doesn't it? Is there an unseen hand of Western powers in what's happening across Africa? Anyway, Kenya is truly the giant of Africa. Well, maybe after South Africa and Egypt. Nigeria is big for flaunting. We flaunt our size. We can't even produce toothpicks. No electricity. Foreign businesses are packing up and leaving. But every other Saturday, Nigerians go on a partying spree. The happiest people in the world. My verdict: unless and until citizens hold their governments by the jugular and refuse to back down like Kenyans, selfish and greedy leaders will continue to plunder their nation's wealth while taking IMF and World Bank loans to further impoverish their people. Stand up, Africa, and be the true giant that you really are.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. You know, interestingly, Ruto sent troops to Haiti. To Haiti.
Imagine.
To Haiti. And people were, and then Joe Biden said yes, he did. And people were asking, is it the same policemen that are killing people
Now,
back home in Kenya? You see, there is something about Africa, and it must be said that the West is really
the puppet masters.
hand,
The puppet masters.
the unseen hand
Pulling the
in
strings.
Yes, in publishing Africa, and the unseen hand causing instability. And I know a generation will arise that will tell the West
Enough
to
is
get
enough.
out. I know.
Mm.
I hope is in my lifetime.
Emeka, you know that in the days of colonialism, the Western powers, sat across the African table and shared us like meat, into colonies. When it became unpopular, they released independence, like they were dashing us human rights, but introduced neo-colonialism, where we, willingly submit ourselves to them. African leaders will not build hospitals that they can use in Africa. They will run to Germany, to UK, to the US for health tourism. Then there are many francophone African countries that carry their wealth to France,
Yes.
for instance, in exchange for paper currency.
But
So you carry your diamond, real wealth.
part of the problem has to do with us. Look at
That's exactly what I'm saying.
One video about Burkina Faso that Nigerians have been sharing, and somebody asked a question: is it that Nigerians lack it? Is it everything we see just forward? Everything. Don't we know that that video was made by the West to incite hatred against the Burkinabe leader, because they've seen that that young man has his head properly
Screwed on tight.
yes, and so that he's dealing with them. That's why they now coined that video and started sharing it.
Propaganda.
Yes, propaganda. So we too, we must also add intelligence, introspection to the things we do with social media. And one thing I do know is that William Ruto is done for.
He's gone.
I won't be surprised they will force him to resign.
He's gone.
This
He has reversed that bill.
I'm saying to you, go.
The youth on the streets are saying he must go.
You see, my evaluation to so that we don't sink the case
itself.
in a way that because now our comment so far addresses the issue, because that is what we are looking at. But to say that, to still continue to rely on the fact that colonialism wrought Africa this way up until now, is to say the least most unfortunate, because they left us a long time ago. So hold on, no, whatever it is we retain was by choice.
Yeah.
I mean, these are sovereign states. I mean, you know that these are sovereign states in Africa that refuse to build a country.
I absolutely disagree, sir.
Okay?
I too.
No, I'm not starting. I'm not
Go
starting.
ahead, sir.
I don't even know what that
Go ahead. I will tell you why I disagree.
So these leaders in Africa have failed to build a country. And if you're unable to build a country, what will happen therefore is that you will surrender your economic abilities, your economic whatever it is. to getting whatever it is they give you or they come to dump at you. The IMF will start to dictate your economy. The World Bank will start to tell you that you need loan. They will tell you that you have to repackage your citizens and you cannot do it with your GDP. That you need to collect this. And
you need to increase taxes.
So when you get to a point where the whole house is overcast. So I do not think, in my opinion, that our problem is the West. I think that our problem is that we embrace and sustain and have retained neocolonialism by choice.
Look, can I just say something?
I wanted to mention why I disagree.
Look at
When we want to choose leaders, so we are on this table now and we know that the best person to lead us is Cyril. And we all know that if Cyril leads us, we are going to liberation. But the unseen hand, not also knowing that Cyril is not going to follow their directives, advice, and they have always been the unseen hand, pulling the strings behind. We say, but the juror from Rabbi, he has the hand of God upon him. Religion, he's a lawyer, and then he's from this part, that Cyril is from the minority, and ensure that the servers do not work until you emerge as the leader, only for them to now start pulling your strings. Now you need to increase taxes, you need to remove all the subsidies, knowing that Cyril will never have listened to them like that. So when you say neocolonialism is by choice, I agree that we have a part to play in it, in that any government official, like Kenyan youth, are rejecting Ruto, who they freely voted for, realizing that he has puppet masters dictating in IMF and World Bank and saying, you must go. Unless and until all of us, become like the Kenyan youth, I will agree with you that we are partakers in it. But for the fact that they do not even allow the will of the people to prevail most times, you make us accept democracy.
No, but
and our elections are always flawed.
My question, because I'm getting divergent vibes now. Is it safe to say that the IMF and World Bank told Ruto to impose this tax, or that the West imposed on Kenya to become president?
No, I think it was a national issue now.
No, so Kenyans freely elected him.
Yes,
they freely elected him during the election.
No, I'm aware of his election.
They are happy about him.
Every election in Africa,
Yeah.
if you go deeply, every election in Africa has the hidden imprimatur of the West.
you know how even though they may be hidden, as far as majority of the people agree that we wanted this person, you may not have known his intentions. You may have thought that he's our savior. Like a majority of Nigerians chose Buhari. What he now became after, you will now see that the people are now saying, even though we chose you, we no longer want you. They chose him. But you see, like President Tinubu removed fuel subsidies. He removed fuel subsidies immediately he got into office. They didn't like it, but he said, we chose him. And yes, some changes will hurt you. They accepted it. But by the time they now saw that billion to build vice president's office, you are suddenly now upping it to 600 billion. You're asking us to tighten our belts, but you aren't tightening your belt.
Nigerians have started this protest.
Yes, they are copying us.
So in my
go ahead
in my because I followed Kenya for some time. I understand. I know Ruto's trajectory from right from when he was an MP, I think. You know that he fell out with Uhuru Kenyatta, who was president.
Yes.
To the point that Uhuru Kenyatta had to go and invite his arch nemesis, who was also the son of his own father's arch nemesis, Jomo Kenyatta and Odinga Oginga. So he had to come in Raila Odinga, who we never would have seen face to face with, right? But he had to bring him in and told the Kikuyu, who are the majority tribe of Kenya, to vote for Odinga, who is a Luo. If you know the process of Kenya very well, let me give you a background. Jomo Kenyatta was a Kikuyu. His deputy was Daniel Arap Moi. He was a Kalenjin. From Arap Moi to Mwai Kibaki, who was also a Kikuyu. Then from Kibaki to Uhuru Kenyatta, who was a Kikuyu again. And then after him was Ruto, who was a Kalenjin. Power was meant to go from the Kikuyus to the Kalenjins and back like that. The Luos are the outcasts. But in the last election, Uhuru Kenyatta had to go and bring Odinga, a Luo. And and told the Kikuyu to vote for, and the Kikuyu rejected Odinga and stood with Ruto.
Yes.
Because Ruto was in his own right a rooted politician. So I believe that election won it fair and square.
Yes.
Kenyans rejected Odinga, who popularly was always like their sentimental favorite. Rejected him and rejected even Uhuru Kenyatta, the son of the founding father of the nation.
Yes.
Which was like a taboo.
Yes.
I just think that in this particular case, Ruto made a mistake. He made the wrong call. He did because he thought that he could use his charisma and person to sell anything to them and that they will buy. But look, in this election, okay, this is a country in which the youth were behind Ruto also.
Yes.
But clearly a 50% tax on bread. That's like say we shouldn't eat again.
Yes, now.
It's a no-no.
It's a no-no.
So for me, I commend the youth of Kenya for not postponing doomsday, but for waking up to say, if we perish, we perish.
Right now.
Let's face that. And you see, the day before he said that criminals had hijacked. I don't know whether it was Nigerian political criminals, and that they will crush them.
Yes.
So they are now rolled out the
By evening,
You started shooting at them and they were coming.
By evening, he said, I concede.
You reverse it.
Imagine them doing the parliament and parliamentarians running out of parliament and
They
saying,
took the maize.
Yes, now.
Ruto, as far as I'm concerned, is an anti-African element. The same Ruto helped Buhari to abduct Nnamdi Kanu from Kenya. What kind of a leader is that?
well,
You have to know what I believe.
If you have an extradition treaty between the two countries.
was Ruto president?
And then
I think it was Uhuru Kenyatta. What he had
Well, but
But not Ruto.
It was Kenyatta.
Okay,
It was Kenyatta.
But not Ruto. But this is the third year now.
Yeah.
But not Ruto.
But what I believe is this: you see, Africans, like you like saying, must begin to think about Africa.
Of course, I agree to that extent.
When I tackle people on issues about Africa, I ask them a question. European nations who are telling you reforms, remove subsidies, inflation in their country is in single digits, some 1.5, and all of that. And inflation in Nigeria
They have stability.
is almost heading to 50%.
It's 33 point something.
30.9.
Just looking at 50%, winking at 50%.
It's
Where are we going to? If we,
At 50%, there will be a problem.
If we think
Yes, now. Meaning that the price that you buy bread this year, by next year you'll be buying it at 100%.
okay, I was on a TV show on Monday.
At 50%.
And
Nigeria cannot sustain.
I was talking
No,
about
but you will always think that Nigeria
can collect anything.
We will fix cassava. We will fix cassava and àgbàdo. Nigerians will push it to wall. They will bend the wall.
over 50% on Monday. On Monday, do you know what?
But did you know that we're going to be buying bread at 1,700?
What the price of fear?
But let me tell you something. On Monday,
Including
I
the
was on a TV show, and I was saying we should be careful how we handle this minimum wage. Because there was a time when rice was 8,000 naira.
It's now
Nobody
80,000.
knew that rice would get to 80,000. I said, if we don't take time, we might
Buy rice at 1 million.
at 300,000. People in the studio shouted. Do you know the funny thing? Beans, I understand that beans.
It's
Now moving.
It's now 245,000 naira for a bag.
It's not reachable. That one is not unreachable.
A bag is now 245,000. How long gets to 300,000? So for rice,
This has even defied the inflation, what do you call it, rate.
so for African leaders to think you can use Western
Beans in the mud.
Western prescriptions to transform the economy.
Western orders and commands.
A non-performing economy. How are you going to do that?
Anyway, the conversation does not end on this table. You can join us by sending in your comments to all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. You can also follow us at our website www.enterprisetvnews.com. Thank you very much, jurors of this table, for being here. We also say thank you once again for joining us. We will see you next time on The Middlemen. Stay blessed.
Enterprise TV, a tradition of truth.